Well, welcome to the Kickbutt Facebook Live conference. I am so happy that you're all joining us again. You know, Kickbutt is when, I should say Kickbutt leadership. It's Kickbutt leadership is when mindfulness meets vision, opportunity, and engagement. And that's when you truly are a Kickbutt leader because you're really being mindful of what kind of leader you are and how that affects the people around you, the people on your team, the people that you're a leader with, and your clients and everyone around. So in this session, this is session 4. First of all, I want to introduce my co-host here.
I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business Team.
And I'm Coni Meyers with Kickbutt Leadership. In this session, I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this all day. As you can see, she has red hair, and that pretty much says it all. But I love, she is known for her sass, her moxie, and her fire. I would love to introduce Debra Trappen. Thank you so much for coming.
I love you, Connie, and I love what you're doing. And it's so great to meet you, Kim. I love your energy. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you. It's so great to meet you.
Well, my very first question for everybody, and I can't wait to hear the answer to this one, is were you a leader as a child?
Yes.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. I was always the mom. Like in plays, in my groups, I was always like, the Dear Abby or Dear Debbie when I was a kid. I went by Debbie. So absolutely. I was also the encourager and the empowerer, though, even back then. And so I would always encourage my friends to go to the front of the line, raise your hand. So I kind of, even as a kiddo, I knew that part of my purpose was to help other people step into their leadership as well. So there you go. There's that.
I had no doubt. Were you as sassy and moxie then as you are now?
I don't think so. I think that I for a lot of my childhood and my youth, I hid my sparkle a little bit because I was such a big personality. And, I heard shh a lot in class. And because I'm a firstborn, I wanted to shine, but I also wanted to behave, if you will. And so it really wasn't until I was older where I was like, hey, I'm turning the hair up. I'm turning the moxie up, watch out world. So, yeah.
Well, let's tell everybody how you kind of got to where you are today.
Well, let's see. I was a twinkle in my mom's eye. No, I'm teasing. So where I am today, well, let's just kind of cover real estate. So in 2002, I started in the real estate space because my husband and I had moved from San Jose, California to Seattle. And I was looking for a new career, looking for something that I could kind of implement my executive recruiting background, my event planning background, and all of my sales management from retail into something where I wasn't working for someone else and where I had more quote unquote freedom. And so, we think that real estate's going to be that way, but it really isn't. And so I got into this space, but almost immediately, Connie, I knew that I was not going to be selling real estate for long. I knew that it was going to be for a very short period of time and that my calling inside the space was going to be to empower others to do this business in a different way than was being taught at the time, which was very leads driven, knocking on people's doors, making cold calls, calling FSBOs. And that just didn't feel right to me. And I thought, well, if it doesn't feel right to me, that's an opportunity. Because also at that time, there were no women teaching. There were no women trainers. I was hard pressed to even find a mentor in that space that wasn't male. And so that kind of started the journey of getting into recruiting and training inside the real estate space because that's where I could affect those things. And then in 2012, I had my moment, my moxie moment, as I'm sure you would call a crystalline moment, where I'm standing at the top of 30 Rock And I hear the spirit just come over me saying, you're thinking too small. You need to get out of working in corporate, like get out there. And I fought it. Most of us do at first. And I talked to my mentor, who was also my boss. And he said, yeah, I know it's time for you to go. Like, I don't want you to, but I know you need to. And that started the journey of D11 and DebraTrappen.com. And the beauty of my journey is that I experienced for myself, again, what it was like to start a company with something that I knew how to do, but that I wasn't meant to do. And so I went through this process of helping people with social media and going, this doesn't fit. And then basically Phoenix Rising, right? Going, that just is not what I want to do. Where do I want to go next? And empowering women was where it was for me. That is going right back to being on the playground as a kid, going, duh, this is what you're supposed to do. And it's been so beautiful and so powerful and abundantly successful since I stepped into that space. And, you know, now it's the lioness pride that I'm attracting is so supportive of those missions. And so the people I get to work with and the people I get to speak into on stage are the right people, finally.
Right. Well, you know, I think it's absolutely true when, you know, as you know, when you step into your purpose and your why, that the right people, when you have a vision of what it is you want to do and where you belong, the right people do just show up. Everything comes into alignment with what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and once you know it, then you can actually share it. And I think that's where a lot of business owners and independent contractors who are using their personal brand to build their business, that's where they go wrong. They try to emulate someone else as opposed to taking a moment and defining the best version of who they are so that they can attract others who will value that, who will enjoy being in their space. And I think it sounds overwhelming for some people. And so I think it's, you know, folks like the two of you and like me, we can break those things down into more snackable bites for them and say, you don't have to go through like this Zen meditation in the middle of the Arizona desert to figure it out, right? We can help you right in your PJs and fuzzy slippers.
Exactly. So when you're talking with a client or we're talking with somebody that is overwhelmed, what do you tell them? How do you help them find their why and their purpose and vision?
So one of the very first things that I do with clients is it's called shaking off the shame. And it's kind of like a little dance, if you will, but just shaking off the shame of why did it take me so long to do this? Right. You know, a very large percentage of my consulting clients, the women who I coach are female. And they do for everyone else. And then at a certain point, and it's not the same for everyone, it's not the same age, it's not the same for the same reasons, but something triggers inside them. That spark grows a little bit larger and they're like, I am worth it. Mm-hmm. And so they decide they're worth it and they hire someone to help them and they go, I feel guilty. I feel shame because I didn't do it sooner. And so shaking off the shame is first. And then we go through a process. And I have this vision when I'm working with people of like 4 squares, like when you're a kid and you played 4 square with a ball, you know, kind of bounced it around. And 3 of them are very consistent. Your core values, your soul tank, the things that fuel you, and then your purpose. And those 3 things, when you have those figured out, it's easy to attract your ideal clients. It's easy to choose your networking opportunities. It's easy for you to write goals that really do ignite you every single day that you actually attain. But you have to have those first 3 figured out. Otherwise, you say yes to the wrong things and no to the wrong things, and there's never enough time on your schedule for the things that you're meant to do. So we go through that process first, defining those first 3 things, and then decide where they want to take it. What do they want to do with that once they've got it?
One of the things I love is when I'm working with a client and all of a sudden they have that crystalline moment, that aha, And it's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That's one of my greatest joys, is to watch somebody when they finally get it, you know?
Yes.
And I love somebody that says, I don't have a purpose. You know, and you're like, you can see their purpose. If you've talked to them for any time at all, you know what their purpose is. They just can't see it. It's pretty interesting.
Well, I often find when you have the purpose conversation that, our purpose and our why can get confused, right? Especially again, as women who wear so many hats, mother, sister, wife, just to name a few that have big responsibility, nurturing and relational, that are very, that tug at us, right? And they drain our soul tank. That if we can kind of start with understanding that our purpose is just naturally woven into who we are, that's why we can't see it, because we think everyone else has it, because it's nothing that we even are honing. It's just there.
Right.
And I think that one of the fun parts of what we get to do with clients is to just say, well, here's some examples. Like, I fire people up. That's my purpose. And I do it in everything I do. And I never even thought about it. As a kid, I'm empowering people. As a teenager, I'm empowering people. As a full-grown adult, I empower people. Not everybody does that. And I think it's so much fun to get people to go, oh,
yeah,
it's so simple.
Well, and I think that was what I was going to mention. I think it's really crazy that people think that their purpose has to be something that's a big, grandiose thing, when in reality it is empowering people. It is my stepdaughter. She's a project manager, and when she first said that, she said, "Well, that doesn't seem like much," and I'm like, "Well, it's what you do with that.
Yes.
It's what you do with your purpose, and how you." And what you want that to look like. It can be big and it can be small. It doesn't matter.
Correct. And it looks different in different seasons, and even with different people, right? How I plug in my purpose at church is different than how I plug my purpose in with a client, or with my husband, or even with my dogs. Right. And I find it so interesting. So once you can kind of get somebody to the point where they realize what their purpose is, so it might be they love inspiring creativity in others. Right. So their purpose is to, add color to the world. Right. And you start talking to them about, what kind of things do they love to do with their kids? And they start saying, well, I love to do Play-Doh and coloring. And it's like, well, that's why. That's why you can't stand the organizing of their room, because that doesn't even remotely tap into your purpose. You have to do it still, but it's the moments that you love the most with your kids are the ones that really do directly attach and correlate to your purpose. And I think that's why so many women get stuck in the why versus their purpose, because they believe their purpose so often is their children. And so they think, oh my gosh, like, I don't like hanging out with my children when they're doing this or that. And so they start to feel guilty. And again, there comes that shame. And when you can break it down and say, nope, your purpose isn't attached to a person. Your kids might be your why in this season. What gets you out of bed and fires you up and gets you in that mode where you're like, I need to be more financially secure because I want to take them on vacations, or I want to send them to college. That's a why, not a purpose.
Right.
And so that's so much fun to walk people through that process, because they feel so much guilt about not being perfect with the person they believe is their purpose.
So when somebody has those doubts, or somebody has fear, they feel like they're being stuck, because so many people they can't find their purpose because they're in this world of overwhelm and this world of fear, and they're afraid to move forward. But once somebody figures out their purpose, but they have fear of moving forward, how do you help your clients overcome that?
Well, so I am a firm believer in a nightly ritual that helps you see where you were successful and where you have opportunity the next day. And that comes in a couple of different forms. One is looking at where they aligned with their values, or where they were out of alignment. And so that they can start to see the correlation between the feeling they feel when they're in alignment with their values and when they're not in alignment with their values. It's the same thing with purpose. So if I take an inventory at the end of the day and say, okay, what moments did I feel like I was firing people up? Like, did I have an opportunity to do that today? And then, of course, that attaches to a feeling, it attaches to an emotion that I felt in that moment. And so then I start to see it and experience it more often, because now I've taught my brain what that feels like. And so not only does my brain want more, right? Because it's like, ooh, that feels good. But it also starts to trigger moments where I'm like, ooh, like I can get that over here if I step in and I'm bold and I ask to participate, and I can fire someone up through that participation. Or for somebody who might be their purpose is to feed people, right? They're the ones who show up at the potlucks with 5 dishes, you know?
Right.
They can't help themselves. Everybody's got to have a full belly when they leave the house. Like, those people can start to look for the opportunities to volunteer where they're feeding people, or to be the organizer of menus, or to be in that flow, because there's other people like me who are like, no, I don't care. I mean, I'll do it if I have to, but if you want to do it and you love it, woo, more power to you. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think that once people really find out where they're supposed to be, I mean, there will be fear, but they just have to walk through it. And when they really start thinking, the class, I talk about rituals in the morning, where you stop and you breathe for 5 minutes, and then you think about things that you're grateful for from the day before, and what is the success you had the day before, so you can celebrate it, as well as what does the end of your day look like, and so that they can envision what it looks like, so they can be fired up. And it's been scientifically proven that it actually changes your brain and how you respond to things. It changes your resilience, your collaboration, your ability to handle problems and situations. And by doing it at the beginning and the end of the day, you just start your next day with a whole different way of looking at things.
Yes. And I think that that's really, I think that there's so much power in slowing down and being intentional about not only vision casting your day, but I love that you, in the whole format of how you're teaching through the Kickbutt leadership program, that it's think about your successes the day before and take a moment to celebrate those. Because I think far too many people obsess about failure and get so distracted in that focus on failure. And our society, for some reason along the way, took failure to mean something negative. And so again, there comes that ugly guilt and shame, like, oh, I wasn't successful at that, as opposed to I learned how to not do something, right? That whole concept of, well, won't do that again.
Yes.
And I think that we can celebrate failure in the same way, right? If we just train our brain to go, whoops, that didn't work, and not carry around this sadness around it. It actually is a joy-filled moment when you learn how something doesn't work for you. And so I love that. I love just having ritual in our days.
Right.
You know, I think we move so fast now, and we really, I mean, everyone says, wow, I can't believe it's August 2nd. Like, even kids these days say that. Like, I remember my parents going, wow, I can't believe it's a new year. And I was like, oh my God, time was dragging on, but I didn't have a phone, you know? Yeah. I think, you know, just technology has done so many great things, but it's also really sped our life up. And so when you have these beautiful rituals like you're teaching people, Connie, it reminds them that they are worth it and that their day matters, right? What they're doing every day matters. And there are people that are meant to serve and do life with that are waiting for them to realize that.
Boy, is that important. That's such an important point. We all have a tribe waiting for us out there.
Yeah.
To step up to our purpose and to step into our life, yes, so that we can serve them. And whatever that means to the person or the individual. Yeah. But people waiting for us to find who we are and step into it.
Well, and that is sometimes when I'm having a trouble with a client who just can't figure this part out, they cannot see the forest through the trees themselves. When you flip it from them trying to figure out something for themselves into when you do this, other people's lives will be changed. It helps them see the importance of it, right? It shifts it, in particular if if their purpose is relational in any way, shape, or form, right?
Oh yeah.
If it involves being with other people. And so I think that there is so much beauty in even that one small little element of this isn't just about us. It's about all of these other things. And the word just in that situation is so clear. It's not only about you, right?
Yeah.
I think there are times when saying I'm just something doesn't make any sense. And this is one of those. Like, I'm just trying to figure out my purpose for myself. No, you're not. You're trying to figure it out for this beautiful tribe and pride of people who are just ready for you. They're ready. They're ready for you to figure it out so that you can shout it out.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's one of the things that I absolutely love about what Woman Up is doing. I mean,
Yes.
you have, it used to be that a lot of times women didn't want to be around other women because they were catty, or they would, talk behind their backs, or all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And what I really see with what's happening, and the first time Sarah told me about Woman Up, I was like, oh, I'm on board. Being able to serve others, and what it's doing is bringing people together to really be able to empower one another in so many different ways.
Yes. Well, I talked about this in the Lioness Pride talk that I gave at Woman Up. Now it was 2 months ago because it was in June. Isn't that crazy? That we as women put so much pressure on ourselves to support every other female. And that's just not realistic. It's not realistic. And so I think the conversation around respecting and honoring others who don't see the same way that you do is just as important as saying, I need to find the people who are going to support me and who I am so meant to support. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of us. And I think that's what Woman Up is doing. It's saying, if you are a brokerage owner or leader and you're female, we want to create a space for you. If you are a female who wants to do that, we have a space for you. And by the way, anyone else who wants to support these women is welcome at the table. And so once you figure it out, you can shout it out, right? It is the same concept. Now people know what they're there for. It's not all women. Not every woman will be part of Woman Up, and that's okay. It's okay.
Absolutely. Well, what kind of mind, besides talking or thinking about your day at the end of the day, what other kind of mindfulness practices do you do?
So one of the things that I love doing with my clients is writing custom affirmations. So when we go through this process of defining their values, so at the end of the exercise, they have 11 values, and they also have 11 items that fill their soul tank. So it could be hanging with their grandkids, it could be walking their dogs, it could be playing cards with their best friends with wine, it could even be like painting their toes, bright bubblegum pink. What makes them happy, right? And then that purpose element. And then we take those three and we write custom affirmations that are based on who they are, not just what some Google site has told them, here are the affirmations you should say every day. And it's so much fun because they start to go, oh, now I get it. And I often share one of mine is I am a moxie-filled magnet for money is one of my affirmations. And it makes me giggle every time I think about it. And I follow it up with, the more I have, the more I can give. Because I am so passionate about giving back. And when you read things about attracting money online, it always felt a little like greedy to me. I couldn't connect to it. But once I added my words, added moxie into my affirmation, and I added, the more that I have, the more that I can give, it immediately connected me to this conversation in my head when I'm speaking it out loud. And so that is one of my favorite daily rituals. And they can do those anytime. When they're learning the habit, I ask them to do it at the same time every day, right? While you're brushing your teeth, while you're doing your makeup, while, you're getting dressed, making it consistent. And then they add it to their phone and a little alert comes up and says, hey, have you said your affirmations today? And again, it reminds them, these are what you said you wanted to speak into yourself. And these are your words. They're not random. They're not generic. They're specific to you. And I love it when they send me a little picture, a little snapshot of their alarm, their little alert on their phone. It's like, yes, they're doing it. Yay. Because that's one of the beauties of being a coach or being a guide for those people that are in our world, is that you get to experience their joy right along with them when they're willing to share it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to tell my clients that once you've written out your vision and you figure out what your affirmations are, don't just read them out loud or state them out loud, but record them into your phone, because what better meditation is there than your own vision, your own affirmations? So when you're driving down the street, if you want to say them, say them. If you want to listen to them, if you want to listen to them when you're going to sleep at night, what better way to fall asleep than to fall asleep to who you are?
I love that.
Yeah, I think anytime you can have, and I love your Moxie affirmation. That's great.
It's fun, right?
Yes, that's a fun one.
I have to ask, I guess I am like being the kindergarten princess here again. I have not heard of Moxie until Miss Connie started talking about you. And I think I understand what it means, but would you tell us what it means to you? What is Moxie?
Yeah, Moxie is the combination of being brave, bold, and brilliant all at once. So it leverages my big personality, but it also leverages my wisdom. And when you hear somebody's got Moxie, it's like they've got gumption with smarts. And I love that feeling of, kind of being, like I'm gonna walk in the room and you're gonna see me and you're gonna go, whoa. And then I'm gonna speak into you and you're gonna go, wow, okay, I got it. And so that's really, in a little bit of a nutshell, what it means for me.
Well, and it is truly Debra. I mean, that who she is. She is fire. So when she did her lioness talk at Woman Up, she started out with this lion roaring in the background, and it was great. It was wonderful, and it's like I said before, she fills up the room when she's on stage. You do just such a terrific job. So
thank you, Connie. Thank you for honoring me like that. The roar was something that I was so excited about. Like, I was like, please let it work. Please let it work. Because whenever you're using any kind of like audio or visual support when you're on stage, there's always that little bit of chance that it might not work. But I mean, the crowd went crazy. They were screaming and hooting and hollering. I was like, this is awesome. I'm actually going to release it on my podcast later this month. I'm going to do more like a spoken word, obviously, because there won't be visuals. But so the roar will be on the Fire Up podcast later this month.
Awesome. And she has a group on Facebook called Power Women, which is a great group.
Yes.
Absolutely wonderful group. So, well, Debra, I can't tell you, the half hour is gone. I can't, you and I could go on forever. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your crazy busy schedule and to join us here on Kickbutt Leadership. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's always a joy to support you, Connie. And so thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of the sass, moxie, and fire that I have here in Seattle. And I'm just praying so many blessings over this project that you are taking on. I love it, and I cannot wait to see you soar.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, the Kickbutt Leadership is actually, the online course just launched yesterday online. And it's now available on kickbuttleadership.com, as well as on the California Association of Realtors education webpage. You can find links to both of those at kickbuttleadership.com. And during the next 7 days, we're offering a special, both CAR as well as myself, for people that are not members of CAR for $249. So that's a real bargain. We have the first session is free, and that's all about assessment. So you can go on there, take the assessment, and sign up for the course and really find out where your moxie is. So
Love it.
thank you so much for joining us. And we'll look forward to having the next guest, which is, by the way, the only man that is going to be on this conference. His name is Michael Atman, and he's from Australia.
Ooh.
So he's getting up very early in the morning to join us. He's a very successful man and has a lot to say about mindfulness, as well as just how to be your true self. So I hope everybody will tune in for that. And I am Coni Meyers with Kickbutt Leadership.
I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business team.
And we'll be back at 4:30 Central Time, 2:30 Pacific Time.
But we'll be back at 3, won't we?
Oh, 3. I'm sorry, 3.
See, you're such a good team. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll be back at 3 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock
There you go.
Pacific Time. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
See you ladies later.